Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Jeff. This is Will to Live Outdoors, and thank you again for following along with our Dobinson's extended travel suspension lift. In part one, we did the full long travel rear suspension. We did upper and lower rear control arms, new springs, new shocks. The MRR three-way valve adjustable shocks were installed. We did extended bump stops, and now we are ready for the front. So the front is going to be an extended travel MRR shocks paired with their longer spring. This should yield about the same lift that we have with the back. All right, so that catches everybody up to speed. So that's what we've been busy doing here. I did a quick measurement to about the center line of the wheel. We were at 38 and just under 39 in the rear on both sides. It was a little bit lower on the driver's side, but front measured fairly close to just a little over 38 inches and an eighth, 38 and maybe a quarter at the most right here. But you can see we've got a substantial difference in height at this point. And I measured and was able to achieve somewhere around 41 inches. So we're a full, right now, of course I know it hasn't settled yet or anything, but we've gained about 3 inches with just what how we're sitting now. I have ordered 35-inch tires, so we're gonna go back with 35s. Hopefully we don't run into much of an issue. I'm running out of time, but right now we're gonna get this thing up on jack stands real quick and get these front tires off. For the front, we're again going with their extended travel front shocks, and that's obviously on an IFS truck. That's it's like a strut assembly. So we'll get those unboxed here in a second and show you what those look like. While we're in there, we're going to be doing a diff drop, and we're also going to be doing a sway bar link extension because we are going to need more sway bar to be able to achieve this amount of lift in the front. So let's get into it, get it up on jack stand. All right, first things first, we're going to remove the retaining nut on the back side of the sway bar link where it connects to the spindle, and then we'll go around to the other side and we will repeat this process, and then that way we'll be able to rotate this sort of up out of the way, and that would be just, we won't have to work around it for now. And here in a minute we're going to be putting the relocation brackets on the sway bar, but to start with we're just going to go ahead and move this out of the way. That is an 18mm nut, and then you'll need to get an appropriate sized Allen wrench to put in this end of it here to keep it from moving. And it doesn't really, once you break it loose, it doesn't have, it's pretty free moving. You can almost remove it with your fingers. Next, we're going to give ourselves a little bit more room to work. This 12mm bolt will come off of this bracket, and we want to be very careful there not to damage the brake line, but just move it out of the way. Then we're going to remove the ABS line off the top of the upper control arm. That's a 10mm bolt. Again, just moving it out of the way so we can give ourselves some room to work. All right, we removed the pin. This 22mm nut has been backed off here on the bottom of the upper ball joint. And now we're gonna get a couple of hard strikes here to release this. Then we'll put some pressure on the bottom of the lower control arm to keep the whole unit from falling out. And we've also loosened already up here. So we'll know when this drops or goes lower because I've given it enough to come down a little bit, but not all the way. Bingo. Hold this thing out of the way. All right, driver's side, we have the 3 nuts off the top. We obviously got this separated and about to take the spindle down, and I have the jack in place. And as soon as we take a, well, before I get too carried away here, I'm gonna go ahead and, I think I've got enough pressure here. Let's go ahead and see if we can knock the lower bolt out of the shock, and then we'll pull this thing out. A few gentle taps and it comes right out. All right, control arm wedged up out of the way. Bolts are free on the top of the strut. I've got my sway bar over out of the way at this point, and now it's just going to be a little pull from back here. This is going to slide back down in this little empty spot here, and we'll be able to get this bad boy out of here. And this side has been much quicker than the other side, but that is typical after you've learned your lesson the first time around. All right, let's take a closer look at these MRR assemblies. Remote reservoir, teal springs to match the rear, extended travel. All right, let's get them installed. All I've got to do is get this stupid hose routed up and over. I think that's where I messed up. I think I gotta get that there. Leave that right there. Do this right here. Okay. Like that. Yeah, all right, so there we go. All right, now we gotta turn. Now let's put this back up here and keep it out of the way. Hose to the back, and there we go. We're in. All right. That's it. Issues. All right, so I'm going to put a little bit more pressure with my jack and get this up just a tad so I can put the castle nut back on the upper control arm here. Got the old one out, the new one in. We are getting very close to completing this task. We'll have the extended travel fronts done. We've already got the rear in. And I guess after we get the diff dropped and get the sway bars reconnected, then we're going to torque everything down, front and back, bleed the brakes, and we'll pull this thing out. So that'll leave me at least one day. If I can get all this done and have it out by Tuesday, I get the new tires on Tuesday. That's going to give me a chance to make sure that we don't have to do something with this area right here. So hopefully we can adjust this out enough to keep it away from that. But yeah, anyway, I'm not holding my breath. So, all right, be back at it later. When we do this, we still have to attach our reservoirs. Like I said, I'm running out of time. So we'll get on it pretty early tomorrow night, and tomorrow night should be the last night that I'm working on it prior to getting it out of the garage. All right, located inside your kit is the Rebound Adjustment screw. They don't put these actually in, they can't be pre-installed, or you wouldn't actually want to install it with this already on there because it may make your clearance a little harder for you to get the actual strut in there. But if you can just see, that is actually a 4mm hex. And you want to be very careful because now if you get your struts pre-installed, so it's going to come already with the, you see that little ball bearing and the little spring? So in the very top of the strut is the Rebound Adjustment screw. And we're not going to probably be able to see that because of just how it's in here, but let me, yeah, there's just no way I can get the, anyway, we're going to have just enough room to put the adjustment screw it on here. But inside the top of that shaft is a 4mm hex with a little pin. And there's a small hole in the side of the pin, and each time it rotates, it will click. And that's how you count your adjustments for Rebound. So what this will do is it'll screw in. It should find, just gonna hand tighten it. I don't think you really wouldn't want to over tighten it, I wouldn't think. You should hear, it'll actually make a click as it turns. Yep. Okay. Now, once that gets some pressure on it, and you're gonna turn, it's just like it setting the Rebound on your rear shocks. You know, you count the clicks. I think that if it makes, they've got a breakdown in the book. I just can't remember. It seems like 3 full revolutions is like a total of 18 clicks or something like that. But anyway, that's what that's going to look like installed. That is your Rebound adjustment nut. And there is a spare spring and ball bearing for the pin that sits inside the very end of this shaft. And again, if you get yours already installed, you're just going to be ready to put this on once you get it on the vehicle. Anyway, so you just play around with that. But that is a little hex pin that's inside there, inside that nut. And that's actually what you're turning. So that's your adjustment for Rebound. All right, after putting our adjustment screw on, the next thing that I'm going to try to get knocked out real quick is to go ahead and get these mounted so I can get everything kind of back to button back up here. So in order to do that, we're going to have to take this panel off. That's just 4 body panel pins that hold that in. We're going to be mounting the reservoir right here in this area. If you have KDSS, your process will be a little bit different. This truck does not have KDSS, so we're putting it on the radiator side of the control arm. And what we're going to do is be installing these blocks. The 2 middle holes are threaded, which are going to hold our holder for the reservoir, and the 2 outside edges have an 8mm and a 6mm, and those are going to be, so you're going to have a rectangular hole that had a plug in it right here, and then we had a circular hole right here. Those are going to both have to go away, so they're kind of tricky to get to. They do have some release pins on the back of them, but I mean, you're probably not ever putting them back in. So just by whatever means necessary, get those out. This might be rather tricky, so I'll just show you what the finished product looks like when I get done. So anyway, you hold your mouth just right, keep a magnet on standby, and now try to work with keeping this reservoir off of you and get that first bolt started. Once you get the first one in, it goes pretty quick, but this seems to be the challenge. So wish me luck. All right, so with that, with a nice little bend in it, and using my finger just to hold just barely catch the back of it, because if you've got big fingers, you're gonna kind of scuff them up pretty good. We want to tighten this just enough to hold it to where we can help line up on this side, and on the other side we have a much longer captive nut there, so makes it a ton easier. If this one was a little bit bigger or pre-bent, it would make it make it way quicker. But obviously, anytime that you're doing something for the first time, I would say it's going to be the challenge is just figuring it out, what works. And like I said, this is gone like way quicker to get that done the second time around. So let's get this mounted. Now with both sides cleanly mounted, it's time to mount the holder for the reservoir, and these are going to be a little bit of a challenge themselves. All right, now with a 14mm socket, we are going to get under the front of the vehicle here. These radiator support brackets on each side will need to come off. With them out of the way, we are going to reinstall or actually install these brackets to lower the radiator support. And then these plates will then go in place, and that's going to be what's going to drop the sway bar. So with the ability to maneuver the sway bar out of the way with these radiator supports gone, removed, I will go ahead and attach those back to the, I'm going to put them back on the spindle, and then get the sway bar where it needs to be, reinstall these to the new spacers. That should make things go a little quicker. They do say that the sway bar bracket relocation kit will take about a half hour to an hour, but since we've already got everything out of the way, this should go a little quicker than that. And all right, so we're going to proceed with the sway bar relocation kit. All right, good morning. I'm in the middle of doing this sway bar relocation, and I've come to the realization that I think what I would like to do is actually try, I think I'm just gonna remove the sway bar altogether. So I'm gonna delete the sway bar, and I'll tell you why. I honestly just wanna see what it's like to have the no front sway bar. I also looks like I've got a little bit of bind in the front, so even with the drop bracket, it still kind of has the geometry off a little bit. So I'm just gonna completely remove it, and if I decide it needs it, I'll put it back in. May end up doing something different altogether anyway, but yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead. I'm gonna take it off at this point because I'm right there at that point. I'm gonna put these radiator brackets back on. Also the other thing that I'm looking at here is with the front skid plate on the Pro, uses some of your bolts that hold your radiator supports in place, actually hold that on. So I would have to source some longer hardware and whatnot. But you know, even with the bracket being dropped, it still puts at full drop. It looks like it kind of gets a little bit of makes a little contact with the with your radiator, your ABS line. So I just, yeah, I'm just going to take it off. We're going to take it off and see how it rides. If I feel like it needs to go back on there, I will. I don't think it'll hurt anything to drive it for the next week or so, just to see, get some trail time in. And but I think this will eliminate some of the squeaking up front and everything too. So we're just going to go ahead and remove it now, and then we'll get on with the Diff Drop, and we'll be close to finished. You're gonna have to put this driver's side because of the earth. There's an earth point right underneath here, and then you have one of your power steering lines that runs along the frame here. So if you just bend her back in the vise, you can now tighten it down and still get to everything, and it remains all out of the way. I mean, everything is together except for the other reservoir, and we still haven't anchored the hose yet, but I still have some adjustment I feel like that needs to be made here and there. I think that the body of that shock needs to come just a wee bit at a different angle or something to get it away from that control arm. But we have that good to go. Just for the time being, just to make sure that I don't have anything that's touching, like right there, different pinch points and whatnot. I have not 100% secured my reservoir hose, but we had a concerning amount of tightness in this spring. They are very tight, but as you can see, I'm jacking up underneath the lower control arm just to put some pressure on it, and it's lifting the vehicle up. But I am noticing that as it's starting to go up off of here, it is compressing the shock. So we're getting movement, more movement than I guess I realized we were getting. So, but they are really, 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 really tight. I'm going to get this up high enough to get both tires on, and at least get ready to go get an alignment this afternoon. And hopefully we don't have to go chop on those, but if we do, it's we're way closer than we were last night. And this is super easy to just remove the 4runner struts and do this. It's not difficult by any means, but there is a lot of tight tolerances, and where you choose to mount your reservoirs may be the deciding factor in how long you're at this, because it's that seems to be the more tedious part of this. Thanks to had some help come over last night and just helped me get the rear brakes 100% dialed in, bled the brake system, and thank Jonathan, Jared, and Aaron especially for sticking it out till almost 1 o'clock last night. So hopefully we'll get this thing aligned this afternoon, but thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, or anything else, please leave me a comment, give us a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and stay tuned, because we're going to get this thing out this weekend, make some adjustments on these shocks, and just see how well it does off-roading. Thank you.